the importance of the role of media in supporting and advocating an end to violence against women and girls. Well, I'll not be doing this alone today. I'll also be joined live by Geoffrey Njoku, and he is a communication specialist at UNICEF Nigeria. Hello, Geoffrey. Are you there? Okay, so while I wait for him to join us, I'd like you to also be a part of the program today. Do also share your thoughts via our Instagram handle. We are at WFM917. And yes, do state what you think are the issues surrounding women and girls, especially when it comes to violence. One of the things I'll also like to bring to the fore is that about 80 million girls in Nigeria, I'm not talking about the world now, I'm talking about in Nigeria, are still victims of gender-based violence. And well, this stats was at 2019. And coupled with how the pandemic has rolled in, there are more figures coming in. But I'd also like to know what your views are on this, and let's have your take. Don't forget that we are at WFM 917, and today on this Instagram live series of IDeyWithHer is speaking against ending violence against women and girls, where the media is at the forefront. So let's have your take this evening, and let's know how you want us to fight this, what you want us to do, and how we can also end this, this situation where violence against women and girls is ongoing. It's a very sad situation, to be honest, but I would also like to know what your thoughts are, how we can go about it. And don't forget that, yes, you can be a part of the program today. Let's have your thoughts. Let's also know how we can end violence against women. One of the things I also like to bring to the fore here is or one of the questions I will like to also answer today is, how do we use the media to address the underlying issues of gender-based violence? A lot of people always talk about it. They are not sure how to go about it. So these are part of the things we will be discussing today. So do well to share your thoughts with me. Let's also have your thoughts as well. And let's know what you want us to do and how we can also put an end to it. We know that gender-based violence in Nigeria, or gender-based violence in the world too, is becoming an issue where one minute a woman is basically sitting at home having a discussion with her husband, and then the next minute from a loving conversation it turns out to be a violent one. Could be as a result of a conversation that is being said. Okay, could it be about taking care of the kids? Could it be about the household in general? These are salient things we would like to have your thoughts on. And how then do we fight this? Because if we do not nip it in the bud, as they say, it will continue to spiral out. Like I did state earlier, I'll be joined by Geoffrey Njoku, and he is the communication specialist at UNICEF Nigeria. And yes, he'll be sharing his thoughts with me today on how we can end, or how we can fight against gender-based violence, and what are the things that we need to put in place in order to put this to an end. Don't forget that you can also share your thoughts, share your questions. Let's have your perspective on how gender-based violence can also come to an end today, or at least we start by talking about it. It's not just talking about it within the confines of our home, but also talking about it through the media as well. It's very important, because we see a lot of, especially women and girls, they are the ones who actually are affected the most, and we see how, well, they suffer a lot, to be honest. But have you ever thought about how we can fight it, how we can bring an end to gender-based violence. Let's have your thought this evening. It's 19 minutes after 6 on your Women Radio, WFM 91.7. Yes, we're also live on Instagram. We are at WFM 917. Do go there. Let's have your thoughts. Let's know what you want to share with us. And like I did state, it is an important conversation that needs to be had. And we're talking about ending violence against women and girls. Yes, bearing in mind that the media is at the forefront fighting this. And we'd like to know what your thoughts are. However, don't forget that your thoughts are important. But at the same time, I also like to drop this stats again that 80 million women and girls in Nigeria are still victims of gender-based violence. And this record was at 2019. And I would like to know how you think we can address this. How can we, put an end to this? If in 2019, we had 80 million. Now we're in 2021. How do we now solve this issue? What do we do? I know that in 2015, the VAP Act was, established or was passed rather, but it's not active in all states. But these are part of the things we're trying to put out and trying to remind the public, put it in the consciousness of everyone out there today regarding ending violence against women. But another underlying thing I would like to ask is, as an individual, how are you speaking out? How are you helping to put an end to violence against the girl child, against the woman, even within your environment? Let's have your thoughts this evening, and let's know how we can do this together, even in our own little community. It is important that we need to put this out there. Like I did state, we're talking about ending violence against women and girls. The media are at the forefront, and it is an Instagram live series on IDeyWithHer. And this is the first of its kind, and it is a media campaign by UNICEF and Women Radio 91.7 aimed at ending violence against women and girls, with the media at the forefront of the fight. I'll be joined shortly with Geoffrey Njoko. He is the communication specialist at UNICEF Nigeria, and we'll be able to expatiate clearly and more adept on what we need to put in place and how we can address these issues, on how gender-based violence, everybody keeps talking about it. It's not just the or hitting. There's subtle things that need to also be spoken of and spoken about or talked about. But like I did state, I'd like to have your thoughts this evening. Let's know how we can address this. Don't forget that this is WFM 91.7 Women Radio, and yes, we are waiting to have your thoughts. Another thing I'd also like to have at the back of your mind is, how will the average Nigerian also get involved in the legislative advocacy against all forms of discrimination and violence against the woman or the girl child? These are salient questions that we're going to be treating today, and would like to have your thoughts as well. Talking about gender-based violence, a lot of people will think, oh, it's just sometimes I've heard in some spaces that sometimes it's the woman who brings it upon herself, but whereby the woman is quiet, is docile. Would you say she's also bringing this upon herself? I'd like to have your thoughts this evening as well. Don't forget, if you like to send us a text as well to share your thoughts, you can send it via a text line on 070-317-56537. Let's have your thoughts on that, and let's explore this issue that is affecting a lot of us, especially the women and the girl child. How do we address it? What do we put in place to make sure that all is going right? And well, I'm hoping that very soon Jeffrey will be able to join me so we can have this conversation and, speak more on this issue. If we want to go by statistics alone, enough cannot be said about it. But it's not just having stats; it's also having first-hand information and also having to drive this point home. We see where every day, like I did state, even online, we see where women are trolled and are spoken abusive of, especially when when it comes to how she's dressed. Even the one that is fully clothed still gets to be harassed and is still meted out with violence. So how would you now put that as? What would you say that is? How can we start to address those issues? Because we see this happening every day. Yes, the media comes out and brings out, puts it out there for us to see, or even talks about it, just like we are doing here at Women Radio. But what else do we need to put in place? What are the things that can be done to address these issues? Is it enough to just talk about it? Are there other things we can do to solve this issue? Well, I would like to know what your thoughts are this evening. Don't forget that you can be a part of this Instagram live session. Let's have your thoughts. Let's also know what you are thinking can happen and how we can change this whole situation. We know that women are special. Let's not even start to talk about that. But we're not trying to make it look as if we are the only ones. But what do we do to change the narrative? How can we change the narrative from a man's perspective? How do you change the narrative and make sure that he also, your boy child is also understands or knows what he's supposed to do? We hear snide remarks in conversations amongst friends, neighbors. Is she no be as she keep herself now make things they happen to her? We've heard these things. Let's not even try to shy away from them. But like I did state, what can we do? Who do we turn to? We have organizations that actually fight for women. We have organizations that speak out for women. We have organizations that also tell you where to go. But is that enough? What else can we do? Even if we do have these organizations, what are the dynamics of actually reporting this violence against women and girls? Sometimes we hear about those sad situations where the parent or maybe the mother goes to the police station and she reports this incident, but at some point in time it is covered. There'll be exchange of monies and things, and then the whole thing is covered, but we do not know how it all goes. So what we would like to have your thoughts as well. Don't forget that you can share your thoughts with me on our Instagram handle at WFM917. Just share your thoughts there. Let's also read them out and see how we can actually fight these issues that are plaguing us today. Well, it's 27 minutes past 6, and yes, you're still tuned into I Day with Her series on Instagram. But in the meantime, let's go listen to someone who also just had some will I say family time just brought to the fore. Let's go listen to Banky W. Don't go nowhere.
Ho! Music man, Banky W, Mr. Capable. Let me get my swag on real quick. Here we go. Listen, hey yo, laser sharp hairline shaped by Dominicans. Mr. Capable is back with his pad and his pen again. Catch me in the Bronx politicking with mommies, blowing up like I'm more juiced up than Rocky. Mad cause your girl fell in love with a black man. Yes, I'm so African, tell by my accent. Yes, I'm Nigerian, damn right I am packing. And yes, I'm the future, the rest of these is past
I rap my job. Woo! Whether I live near or far, I can be out in Yankee or even posted up in Jan. See, you gotta know who you are. even when you hustle hard. Just follow your dreams, and you can be a superstar. Because you can cross rivers in Calabar, you can soar rock out in Abuja. Right, it doesn't matter, we gon' make it out to the end. Whether you're up north in Kaduna or getting your hustle on in and out traffic in Lagos, you can be from A to Meta, A, 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 Niger, whether you live far, you can be out in Yankee, or even posted up in Jan. Let it know who you be, even when you're hustling. Make you follow your dream. From Oshodi, oh. You can cross rivers in Calabar, you can soar rock out in Abuja, riding Okadas in Benin. Doesn't matter, we gon' make it out to the end. Whether you're up north in Kaduna or getting your hustle on in Anambra, riding through traffic in Lagos, you can be from A to Meta, A, from A to Meta, A, from A to Meta, A, from A to Meta,
Yeah, EMEZ, it's your boy Banky W, aka Mr. Capable. You know, right now we just did this right here. I'm just having some fun in the studio. We did this for all our Nigerian people, east, west, north, south, everywhere, all around the world. We global, we international. Get your hustle on. Let's go. Bring me back one time. Oh yeah, hey.
You can cross rivers in Calabar, you can soar rock out in Abuja, riding Okadas in Benin. Doesn't matter, we gon' make it out to the end. Whether you're up north in Kaduna or getting your hustle on in Anambra, riding through traffic in Lagos, you can be from A to Meta, A, from A to Meta, A, from A to Meta, A, from A to Meta, Nigeria, we can make it home if we only keep unity. Keep unity, we can make it. Nigeria, we can make it, yes. If we only got unity, got unity. Hey, yeah.
Come on, Lagos. We're turning it all the way up.
You know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen.
Women talk.
We listen.
On WFM 91.7.
And yes, you're still tuned in to I Day with Her series, and it is the first of its kind, and it's well, like I did state earlier, it's a media campaign by UNICEF and Women Radio 91.7, aimed at ending violence against women and girls, with the media at the forefront of this fight. And like we've been talking earlier on, well, we know that violence against women and girls still take place every day in every corner that you can imagine, at home, at work, on the streets, everywhere, even online. We see how women are trolled, how girls are trolled, and it's our duty to discuss and find solutions to it. Like I did state that you can be a part of this. You can be a part of I Deal with Her series. Share with us what your thoughts are. You can send us a text, or you can call us on 07000 Let's have your thought this evening. Let's know what your perception is, and how we can fight this menace that we see happening in our country today. Earlier on, I did make mention that we have about 80 million women and girls in Nigeria that are still victims of gender based violence. 80 million. That's a huge number. How do we fight this number? What are the things we can put in place? How do we make sure that when they report this incidents, that they are getting justice? How do we fight for them? What are the advocacies that can be put in place? How will the average Nigerian, you know, fight and speak about these things, especially against all forms of discrimination and violence against women and girls? It is something that we need to talk about. We cannot just shove it, as has been said, we just shove everything under the carpet. No, we have to keep talking about it. So I'd like to have your thoughts this evening. Share with us 07000 Let's have your perception on how we can end violence against women and girls. Yes, we're using the media as at the forefront of this fight, as we always do here on Women Radio. We always speak out against this situations. We've had situations where we've heard about situations where the woman will go to the police station, or the girl will go to the police station, and she will even still be harassed at this point. So how do we fight these things? What do we do? I'd like to have your thoughts on this as well. Like I did state, I Did With Her series is an outcome of a roundtable discussion with media executives organized by the joint EU UN Spotlight Initiative through UNICEF Nigeria to brainstorm on the issues aimed at increasing accountability for funding implementation of the ending violence against women and girls program. Um, well, it has showed how, we have seen how it has showed how important the media can be of use. We've seen how we keep reporting about these incidents. We've seen how we put these things to the fore. And yeah, sometimes even when we speak about it, it's not enough to just speak about it. We're talking about, solutions. It's not just, having institutions that can fight for. How then do we now fight for them? Who do we fear that if we do not in way, they'll still not have any relief, or nobody will come to their aid? What do we do? How do we fight these things? Let's have your thoughts this evening. Don't forget that we are also on Instagram. We are WFM 917. Just remember that you can go there, drop your comments. Let's read them out. Let's have your solutions that you also prefer, that you think can actually help all of us to find an end to violence against women and girls. There's also a question that keeps popping up in my head, as Well, what are the dynamics of reporting violence against women and girls? It's something that keeps reoccurring. If you say go to the police station, is that enough? Will that suffice? Or if you say go to an organization that deals with violence against women, will that suffice? These are certain questions that we need to have an answer to. And how do we fight it? Don't forget that if we keep quiet, there's no solution, there's no help. It will still keep cropping up. If, as at 2019, we had about 80 million girls, women and girls, being victims of gender-based violence, how much more in 2021? What has 2020 gone with that? Yes, we know a lot of people were under the pandemic and the likes, but how do we address that? What do we do? How can we fight these things? These are questions that we want to also deal with. I'd like to have your thoughts as well. We would like to have your thoughts as well and share your perceptions, and let's know what you think and how we can find solutions to them. Is, like I did state, it's not just enough to speak about it. How do we address it? We have heard where some people go to police stations on several instances, and then they go there, they don't get help. You now keep wondering, is there any point in going to the police station? Will I get succor? Will my case just be shoved under the carpet as well? So these are issues that need to be spoken about, and these are things that we would like to have your thoughts on. Don't forget that you can share your thoughts. The open 07009179117. You can also share your thoughts via our text portal 07031756537. Our Instagram handle is at WFM917. Go there, drop your comments. Let's read them out. Let's also see what you are preferring and how you think we can, find a lasting solution, or at least start to find a solution to gender-based violence against the girl child. Don't shy away from the conversation. Let's have these conversations, and let's know what your thoughts are. Please, would like to have your contributions. Don't just shy away from these things. Let's have you speak about them, and let's know how we can also address it. Enough cannot be said about gender-based violence. We're also talking about who are the stakeholders when it comes to advocacy, who are at the forefront of speaking for the girl child or even for the woman. Let's have your thoughts this evening. Let's also know how we can share them this evening. I'd like to know how we can fight violence as a whole when it comes to women and girls. How do you think, or why do you think it is underreported in Africa? I'm talking about gender-based violence. Why do you underreported? Is there something we can do to make sure that it keeps cropping up and nobody gets to shove it under the carpet, or we turn a blind eye to it? These are salient questions we want to ask and would like answers to today. So let's have your thoughts this evening. Well, I'm supposed to be joined by Geoffrey Njoku. He is the communication specialist at UNICEF Nigeria. He'll be also, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get him to join me so we can talk about these issues, because sometimes having a one-sided, having a one-sided views can actually be, he can have its own downside to it. So how do we address it? Well, Geoffrey says he's joined in, but he can't. Well, I'm hoping that we'll be able to rectify that from this end. But you could drop your thoughts, Geoffrey. Let's have your thoughts. One of the questions I would like to ask you, hopefully you can drop your thoughts in the comment section, is why do you think gender-based violence is underreported in Africa? I'd like to have your thoughts on that. So you can share that as well. Why do you think it is underreported in Africa? What are the things we need to do to make sure that this out there, people can learn about it, can know? Um, Also, what, how do we, as the media, also continue to address the underlying issues of gender-based violence, so that we're no longer having issues as well. All right. So yes, these are things we would like to have your thoughts on this evening. If you are, you can also, or on radio, if you're listening, you can also join us. Call us up on 07000 Let's have your thoughts this evening. Let's know how, or let's have your contribution regarding gender-based violence and how we can end it, especially against women and girls, bearing in mind that the media is at the forefront. It's not enough to just keep quiet. How will the average Nigerian get involved in legislative advocacy against all forms of discrimination and violence against women? We see this happen in our nooks and cranny. Do we just turn a blind eye to it? Do we say it's none of my business? It's not me that's happening? So it doesn't concern me. And like I did state earlier, this is I Day with Her series. This is the first of its series, and it is a media campaign by UNICEF and Women Radio 91.7, aimed at ending violence against women and girls, with the media at the forefront of this fight. And yes, it is an outcome of a roundtable discussion with media executives organized by the Joint EU-UN Spotlight Initiative through UNICEF Nigeria to brainstorm on the issues aimed at increasing accountability for funding implementation of the Ending Violence Against Women and Girls program. So it is not something that a lot of people just putting and shoving aside. They're actually speaking about it. It's because they've had these conversations in well, I say in private, but now we want to bring it to the public. We no longer want to talk about it in hush hush tones. We want you to share your thoughts with us. We want you to also tell us what you think we can do to end this situation. We also want to know how we can bring the advocacy by stakeholders to the fore. We have stakeholders in this fight. Is it enough to just have them in the fight? What else do we need to do? How can we bring an end to this? These are salient issues that need to be addressed. But, sometimes it's not just talking about it. There are also actions that need to be taken. Why do we think we can do this? Well, Geoffrey says, I think the Nigerian is too focused on politics, leaving little room for other issues. I think a robust engagement of the media is required. It is no longer cover the issue. Thank you so much for that. He says it's not enough for us to just cover the issue. We need to also have engagement, robust engagement. And this is what we're doing, having conversations around this. If you just stay and say, okay, we brought it as media to the forefront, we've spoken about it, is that enough? No. Like he says, it's not enough to just cover the issue. We need to also, have proper and robust engagements of these issues. So, but that aside, I'll still like to come back to you, Geoffrey. I'd like to know what the dynamics of reporting violence against women and girls are. How can they all go about it? What do you think we can do to change that narrative? How can we now as individuals now start speaking about it and addressing the issues? Well, let's have your perspective as well, while we're also waiting to hear from Geoffrey as well and have his thoughts. We'd like to have yours as well on how address this. How can we as individuals also, as well, be stakeholders talking about this and reporting violence against women and girls? Don't forget that, yes, this is I Day with Her series on WFM 91.7. And yes, it is it is a media series campaign by UNICEF and Women Radio aimed at ending violence against women and girls, with the media at the forefront of the fight. We have a caller. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. This is Khadija Ibrahim Nuhu.
Good evening, Khadija. Good to have you.
I am the consultant communications coordinator for the partnership with you. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Apologies for the internet challenges we're experiencing this evening from our end.
Okay.
My colleague, Mr. Geoffrey, is still online, I suppose. I also joined, but I guess you didn't see me. I joined the call live, but then this call came in through from your studio. So
okay.
I'm hoping to at least
at least help us in the interim address some of these questions. But so like Geoffrey has actually said, it's not just enough to just talk about it. It's not enough to cover the issue of gender-based violence. So, but he says, having a more robust conversation about it. So that's one of the things that he's spoken about. But I'd also like to find out, how do we, what are the dynamics of reporting this violence against women?
Say that again. What are the dynamics?
Yes, of reporting violence against women. Because we've seen situations where you go to the police stations or you go to some organizations and we report these issues, but it is just, they'll tell you, oh, madam, go home, or there's nothing we can do about it. Or even if they take it up, after a while, it is shoved aside and thrown under the carpet. What can we do? How can we change that dynamic?
Thank you for the question. So let me take the first part of the question, which is, what are the dynamics of gender-based violence, or in this case, violence against women and girls?
Yes.
It's very diverse. It's dependent on which angle we're looking at it from, and there are so many angles to look at it from. I say it's diverse because we have the increasing number. Which became, was brought to the fore during the lockdown. The lockdown provided an opportunity for us to more closely track and also see how rampant and how pervasive violence against women and girls has been as a result of, the conditions of that prevailed during the lockdown. In terms of the dynamics of reporting, so we do have, the reason why we also have more figures is because, or we're seeing higher figures now, is because there's more reporting. So in the past, it was a cultural issue and sometimes a family issue. In some instances, it's also a religious, issue where religious leaders, are brought in to mediate in such instances, and they ask the families to persevere or to forgive. Where it's cultural is the cultural angle is where you find communities wanting to preserve, in quotes, a good name of the family or the community by not putting it out there that such things are happening. And sometimes it's within the family. And because it's so, the pervasiveness of violence against women and girls is such that it happens, it's perpetuated by people who are close to the survivors. It's perpetuated by people that these women and girls know and are in relationship with, either as a daughter, a niece, a neighbor, a student, or even a sibling. And so these dynamics also come in where the family would rather hush it, and then the victim or the survivor in this case is left without the necessary support systems that will enable them to forge through life and prosper and have agency. And then the perpetrators who are able to continue to perpetrate because they've not been brought to book, so to speak. So it's not that there is no reporting, it's that now we're getting we're having more reporting as a result of the spotlight which has been shown on the issue. It's something that has been there, but with more awareness, more more research and data on it, we're able to now, see families and communities coming out of their shell and reporting it. More people are speaking up. We are not where we want to get to,
but at least we're
that's
starting.
The dynamics, yes, of unraveling the issues, the effects, and the impact, and then getting where we would want to get to.
All right. Khadija, just want to also add that Jeffrey says that training both for the police and media is important, and then staying the course. One of reporting is not enough. What's your take on that as well?
Well, that's true. First, we need to start somewhere. And in starting somewhere, engaging with the community, with those who are affected, getting them, raising the demand for them to report, also requires, a supply side. And the supply side is where the police comes in, the Nigerian police force. It's also where the provision of services by the relevant ministries and other associations who are also providing services. So, yes, they work hand in hand. For people to report, there has to be a system that is in place to respond to, their complaints and the reportage. People also need to be aware of what the pathways are to actually getting, justice. Not just getting justice for the survivor, but also getting services that will enable the survivor to also forge through life and be able to prosper. So, yes, having the police force involved, having the judiciary also their tools and involved, so that the turnaround on the cases that have been taken to court is also faster than what we have now, as well as having the systems that are in place, the services that are supposed to respond in two ways: services to prevent the occurrence of this by also monitoring in our communities, and then services to respond to survivors of violence, whatever kind of violence it is.
Okay, but I would also like to ask this, and well, to the average Nigerian, how can they get involved in this fight or advocacy against discrimination and violence against women and girls?
Well, the first thing I would say is that we need to speak up.
Okay.
This is also one of the reasons why media executives were brought into that roundtable discussion, so that the media as an entity moves beyond just reportage, moves beyond just reporting a 5-month-old baby or a 2-year-old girl was raped by a 57 or 40-something-year-old man. Beyond that, to actually actively participating in advocacy, looking inwards into CSR, and then for the general public, also for everybody to speak up. We need to talk about it. We need to be with her. That's the entire essence of the IDeyWithHer campaign, and why you as women media, Women FM, has also jumped on the wagon, is supporting in the process, doing your bit to ensure that we all stand, we all be with the woman and the Nigerian girl. So that's the first step, that we all begin to speak. But in speaking, we also need to get more knowledge. So it's a challenge to us to learn more about violence against women and girls in Nigeria, so that we know how pervasive it is, so that we know how to even recognize when a child or a new family member takes personal and seek for this information. For those of us who have the platform, media, women radio, for example, to put the information out there. I talked about the pathways, of getting justice at the end. It's a program that your station is also actively pursuing and working on. So that kind of information needs to be out there, so that more people can speak up. The more we talk about it, the more we are forced as family members, no matter how personal, to discuss, to have these difficult discussions. And when we have these discussions, we are forced to also take a position. And hopefully, with the kind of information we have and the efforts that are going out there, where Nigerians are
It
able
would
to
not be.
take the positive decision, which is to shame the perpetrator and not the survivor. And we are seeing a turnaround. You know, you look at the media these days, you don't see images that show a woman who has been battered or a woman who,
very
has
true.
been raped or the name of the survivor. You actually see the picture of the perpetrator, you see the name of the perpetrator, you know, their age, what they do, and what they do for a living and the crime they have committed. So we're getting there, but that's exactly the essence. We need to speak up, we need to talk about it.
I'd like to state
and
something.
We need to learn more about it.
Okay, so V on Instagram says that we need to focus on perpetrators and don't shame the victims, which is what you're also highlighting as well. Not shaming the victims, but also focusing on the perpetrators. If we say we need to focus on the we have stakeholders as you know, violence or ending violence against women and girls. How then do we now bring them to the fore? What do we do?
Can you please say that again?
V on Instagram stated that we need to focus on perpetrators and not shame victims. I know you did make mention of that as well. How we need to also get justice at the end of the day for the survivors rather than using victims. And in this fight against ending violence against women and girls, how then do we bring in the stakeholders to join in and make sure that this actually ends?
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, V, for pointing that out and also asking this question. Well, the work continues. Our work has been cut out for us. Okay. Stakeholders are everywhere, and we, bearing in mind that also the stakeholders are community members, which perpetrators, past perpetrators, future perpetrators also amongst the stakeholders. But the idea is to continue to have this. Discussion at whatever level, within whatever community platforms that we have. This is one community platform online. There are other opportunities within our communities during town halls. There are programs on radio, on TV, other platforms that can be used to bring in stakeholders and to have these discussions. And these discussions have been on. It's not been like an empty battle. An empty battlefield. So we've had these discussions on, and we've had a lot of dedicated activists, people who have who started, and built on this work to the point where we're able to have the child. People who have who started, and built on this work to the point where we're able to have the Child Rights Act enacted, the Violence Against Persons Prohibitions Act, and we now have states also following up and adapting all of this stuff. So we're making of all of the conversations and dialogues, and the engagement that has been happening. No stakeholders are left out. Are left out. Thank you. Everybody is a stakeholder because it's a problem. It's an issue. It's a problem that starts from within the family unit. Okay. So there's nowhere we can go without having to talk about this. Everybody is involved to actually bring an end to violence against women and girls in Nigeria.
All right, but I know that earlier on, Geoffrey also made mention of how we in Nigeria focus so much on politics that we do not face other issues or the line issues that are affecting us today. I would like you to also this. It's not enough to just create laws. How do we now make sure that these laws are in effect? Create laws. How do we now make sure that these laws are in effect?
Thank you very much. This is one of the reasons why the Spotlight Initiative through UNICEF thought it's very, very important to engage with the media,
Okay.
to engage with journalists, those who are at the forefront, those who make the decisions, those who decide what gets on the newspaper, on the front page of our dailies, those who decide what goes on air, what gets airtime, what program is airtime, what program is favored, what programming policies actually even exist within our media entities. So that's one of the reasons why we thought within our media entities. So that's one of the reasons why we thought it really wise and timely to engage with the executive, so that we can, because media has the power to inform, media has the power to mark, media has the power to turn around, the perception and the perspective that is out there. And it's the media that also provides the platform for political, issues, which is what, probably in quotes, and probably in quote, what people are more focused on, our leaders are more focused on, excuse that one, and that one focused on, our leaders are more focused on, excuse that one, and that's exactly it. The media has the power, and that's why we reached out to the media, and that's right now doing this because the media is the one of the strongest stakeholders. The media should be at the forefront because the media has that power, has the platform, has the followership, to get people to attract people's attention, bring back the focus onto this silent pandemic. People's attention, bring back the focus onto this silent pandemic that is ravaging our homes, our communities, our country.
All right. It's 6 minutes past 7 on your Women Radio WFM 91.7. This is I Day with Her series. It's a live Instagram series. So if you're on Instagram, you'd like to share your thoughts today, please do also send it, and I'll definitely read out your comments and your contributions on that platform. And like I did state earlier, I Day with Her series is a media campaign by UNICEF and Women Radio 91.7 aimed at ending violence against women and girls, with the media at the forefront of this fight. And yes, it's an outcome of a roundtable discussion with media executives organized by the joint EU-UN Spotlight Initiative through UNICEF Nigeria to brainstorm on the issues aimed at increasing accountability for funding implementation of the Ending Against Women and Girls program. And yes, we know that if we do not speak about it, it will definitely be shoved under the carpet. And I have Khadija with me on the line, but I also enjoin you to please share your thoughts with us on our Instagram handle. We are at WFM 917. Just go there and share your thoughts with us, your comments, how you think we can, what's a way forward in ending violence against women and girls. Yes, we know as the media, we can speak on these issues, but what are all the things do you think we can do? Khadija has said that there are different angles that this can be looked at from. We need to speak up. And also, the main objective is getting justice at the end. How do we get justice at the end is another question. If you have your answers, if you have thoughts you'd like to share, please go ahead, share with us what your contributions are on that. I know that Geoff and Jock also stated earlier on that we need to train both the police and the media on reportage, and also how we can find or draw an end to violence against women. But Khadija, I want to find out, okay? Yes, I know it is critical to work on gender-based violence, and it goes beyond just, like you said, the emergency phase of just talking. What are the practical ways to actually sustain this fight against gender-based violence? What are the practical ways?
Thank you. Just also, let you know that Geoffrey is back online, so he's also with us.
All right.
Yeah. So some of the practical ways, if we look at in our community, still starts with having the information about it. There's practically nothing or very little anyone can do if they lack the information that is required. Now, in terms of prevention, before we go to response, in terms of prevention, there's a whole lot that can be done, practical things that can be done from the home front, at the level of the family. Again, at the school, at the level of the teachers and the heads of school. And then coming back to the community at the level of the traditional rulers and the religious leaders, when we move into the churches and the masjids. But starting from the home, one basic thing that families, parents can do is to begin to shy away from essentially sex education as early as it is comfortable for the parent and the child. And when I say as early, I don't mean for parents to wait until the child or the children are at 10 years old. If at 3 years old your child is inquisitive and they're asking a question, it's never children are at 10 years old. If at 3 years old your child is inquisitive and they're asking a question, it's necessary for them to know what name to call their private parts, not give the private parts those
fictitious names,
special fictitious names that we give. It's necessary for parents to let their children know which part of their body is private and which part of the body is not. It's also, and this is all on the front of when we're thinking in terms of sexual, abuse. But there's so many other different forms of abuse. There's physical, there's mental, there's emotional. And as Africans, we feel that by using the cane or the whip, that's one way of getting common sense or getting to discipline our children. That's another thing that also needs to begin to change at the level of family, at the level of the family. Parents knowing that the cane is not necessarily going to beat sense into your child. It's more likely to beat the life out of that child, so that the child doesn't have the zeal, is no longer inquisitive. The child is not close to you, and the child doesn't talk to you when they need to, especially when they begin to face one form of abuse or the other from somebody who is not a member of that immediate family unit. At school, children also, education that has started from home also needs to continue at the level of school, so that children, girls, know how to protect themselves beyond not staying or wandering off or moving with people who are not of the same maturity and age as they are. Whether it is a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, that should be suspicious in itself. So teaching children to be friends and to engage and play with people who are their peers. That's what I'm getting at. But at the same time, also being able to teach them protective measures. How does a young person, a young woman, a young girl protect herself if she finds herself in that kind of situation? What are some of the warning signs that young girls, children should watch out for, and should be able to see as, okay, this is a kind of danger, I need to get myself out of here. Coming back to the level of the traditional rulers, they need to be more vigilant. There needs to be groups within our communities we have them, they are child protection networks, but we need more of them who would be saddled with that information of protecting our young ones, protecting our girls, and protecting our women. And for the approach to, while it is good to mediate, but for the approach to always be in favor of saving a life, protecting the woman and the child at the level of the masjid, the church, or at the community level. So different. This is so the question covers a very wide, requires a very wide response, and it's something that can be a topic that will be brought on in the coming weeks. I know Geoffrey is also still with us, so he might have something he would want to add here.
Okay, I'd like to have your contribution as well, Geoffrey. I'd like to know what you think we can also add to this. Yes, I know that Khadija has spoken on prevention methods, talking about having sexual education conversations with the children, and it's not, like you said, starting from when they're 10 years old. You need to start them when they're younger, so that they will have a sense of what it is. And like she also stated, starting then going to the school, then traditional rulers, then the religious leaders. These are the neat, or the circle around which children grow, and we need to have these conversations, even in this aside from the home, in schools, well, the traditional rulers as well, because these also embed our culture. They're the ones who hold on to culture a lot. So do not have these conversations, a lot of these things will just slide. But let's have your conversations. Let's have your contribution as well. You have questions as well regarding ending violence against women. How can we report it? What are the things that need to also be put in place to make it easy to end violence against women? Let's have your thoughts as an individual or as a family, in whatever community you are in. We see these things happen. We don't want to be turning a blind eye to it. How do we put it out? What do we do? Do we just say it's none of my business? No. This is why the I Dey With Her series is on, and that's why we're talking about it. And today we're talking about ending violence against women and girls, using the media at the forefront, and would like to have your contribution. It's one thing to talk about it, then they say put your actions where your mouth is. So how do we now put this action into place? Where when I went through a statistic earlier on today, and I saw that we had 80 million women and girls in 2019, it was worrying, because if in 2019 we have 80 million women and girls suffering from gender-based violence, how much more now? It is worrying and very, very troubling. But I'm grateful that we're actually having more stats come out, because, like you said, if we do not speak up, these things will never be addressed. Let's have your contribution. How do we put an end to it? What do we need to put in place? You can as well share your thoughts via our Instagram handle. We are at WFM917. Just go there, drop your comments, and let's know what your thoughts are on ending violence against women and girls, especially using the media at the forefront, like we do here on Women in Radio. Yes, always talking about how we can fight for the women, talking about our rights, talking about the things that need to be put in place. It's not, like I said, it's not just talk. There is action that needs to be put to this talk. How and what are those actions that we need to do? Yes, I'd like to also have your contribution as well, Dr. Njoko. I'd like to know how you think we can, address these issues. Well, I have a contribution here from Afi Cakes _interiors. Thank you so much for your contribution here, and says, age appropriate sex education from the home for both girls and especially boys. I'm guessing that's what you wanted to say. Especially boys should begin from home as a matter of urgency. This gives children prior knowledge on identifying signs of abuse and redress. Okay, thank you so much for your contribution there. What's your take on that, Khadija? I know you just spoke about that, but she says it gives the having this prior knowledge, that's as the children, they are now able to speak up or identify the signs of abuse so that they can get help or redress.
And the question again is?
No, she just made a contribution owing to what you stated earlier about having sex education from the homes, especially, but she said we need to have it more with the boys. That yes, we do have with the girls, but we need to have it more with the boys, so that we're able to have a redress when it comes to identifying signs of abuse.
Yes, she's right. I mean, when I talk about children in general. I know the program is focused on ending violence against women and girls.
True.
But when I talk about starting from the home to the school, I talk about children in general. Sex education is not only for the girl child; it's meant for both children. It's also something that when addressed effectively, when approached effectively from home to the parents, it prepares our boys, for life. Well, I don't mean for the entire life. I mean, it prepares them for life outside of the home, in the sense that they get factual and correct information from their parents from home before that is polluted when they begin to approach puberty and are hearing myths and misconceptions, out there. Part of the education that they should be getting from home and in school is in recognizing, when a girl says no, it is no. It's in recognizing that having power is not a license, to perpetrate anything that constitutes, violence or abuse or cause trauma on another human being. And in this case, I'm not even talking about a sexual crime. I'm talking about even in just something as simple as fighting. So the teaching should be in such a way that, yes, boys will be boys the way it is said. They are active, they are stronger physically, but that power, that natural God-given power, should not be a license to perpetrate any kind of abuse or trauma or inflict any kind of pain on any other person, even a fellow boy. So yes, I do agree with her. It's never, sex education has never been meant for just the girl child. It's for both. And we do find instances where both the male and the female child are misinformed about their sexuality, are misinformed about their bodies. So essentially, the education is for both children. The reason why we are focusing more on women and girls is because the statistics show us that
it's higher.
9 out of 10 of the violence that is perpetrated, is perpetrated on women. That's one, and then 9 out of 10 of the violence that is perpetrated on children is perpetrated on the girl child, and that's why there's an emphasis on women and children. While we do recognize that boys also are at the receiving end of physical, emotional, mental, and even sexual violence in Nigeria as we speak.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Khadija. Thank you for also emphasizing on that. And I also want to say thank you to Afi Cakes for, your contribution, because that's where we're highlighting this from. Let's have your thoughts as well. Share your contributions on how we can address ending violence against women and girls. Let's know what your thoughts are. But I want to find out, why do you think that gender-based violence is underreported, especially when it comes to Africa? Because it's also come out as well that we underreport it. Is it that we are we're ashamed of what happens? That's why we don't report it, or we don't have enough statistics. That's why we don't report it.
I think that it's the underreporting. Specifically, if you say it's underreported, it means the ones that the reporting or the reports that found their way to the right sources, where they are eventually collated, eventually analyzed, and then process or prepared in such a way that it can then be made public. So public. So there are instances where, if violence occurs to a woman, let's say it's just physical violence, her husband, beats her up for one reason or the other. These women don't just, because it's physical. The same women who have the aftermath, the effects or the marks on their faces, on their bodies. Somebody sees it. Before somebody sees it, the woman would definitely, speak to somebody else about it. And sometimes there are even witnesses. Some of the battery, sometimes the physical violence happens in the presence or to the hearing of neighbors or other people. So in terms of reporting, it happens. But in terms of reporting to the right sources, taking it further, I think that's where we begin to lose a grasp of the total number. Even though there is underreporting, within that population of what is even reported, not all of it gets to if the system, and we're still working on that. It's part of what I have spoken about, earlier. If we have child protection or gender-based violence monitoring networks in every community, let's say, for example, in every political ward, let's even bring it down to just that level, not even every community or village. If we had one in every political ward in Nigeria, then people would know there's a place, even if I have to travel for some 30, 40 minutes to go report, you would know there's a place to go report. But it's not in every community, not in every state do we have these networks where, and that's how you gather the data.
Okay.
So it's who is able to get to, the services, prevention and response mechanisms and services that have been put in place that eventually gets onto the grid and then is reported. So there is under-reporting, but even that is relative. Is relative to who the incident was reported to. If it was reported to the pastor or the imam, the pastor or imam is likely to call the husband and then decide, okay, let's what happened. They are likely to mediate and say, they typically don't want to break up family. So the woman is sent back. If she reports to her family or she leaves her husband's house and does the house thing, which is YG, and goes back home, the family is likely to also invite him for a talk. They talk about it. They ask her to go back to there, like it's their husband, their children. So that again happens. So reporting is happening at some level. How much of it is tracked? That's another matter entirely. And we did see one high-profile case that happened last year, where this young woman doctor who has 2 children was a very public issue, had to go on Twitter. And so the husband happens to be somebody, from the media. And we saw how that ended up being resolved also. It was a governor Wacham was the one that reconciles them. So even at the level where it's been made public, we still see this reconciliation process. So in terms of reporting, relative, like she reported on Twitter.
Okay. Well, I'm sure if we could go on and on and on and talk about how we can bring an end to this, but I'm sure that we will not stop here. We'll continue speaking about issues that are affecting women and girls, especially when it comes to violence and discrimination against the girl child and the woman. Thank you so much, Khadija, for sharing your time. And I also want to say a very big thank you to all those who joined us on Instagram. Thank you so much for your contributions as well. Thank you for your questions, and I also want to say a big thank you to Geoffrey. Although yes, we couldn't have you full time, but I'm sure the next session will be a better one. We'll have you as well to share your thoughts as well. This is I Day with Her, and it's a series that's going to be, it's a media campaign series that's going to be going on, and we'll be talking about women and girls. I also want to thank you for listening in and also paying attention. And well, we're hoping to get your in and also paying attention. And well, we're hoping to get your feedback. You can share your thoughts with us on our Twitter handle as well. We're there to also address this and take you further. Our Twitter handle as well. We're there to also address this and take you further. Don't forget that we are WFM 917 on all our social media handles. Let's have this conversation going. Let's not stop here, because if we do keep quiet, then won't see any justice being won't have any solution. Also want to say a very big thank you to the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative for also being for making this come out to the fore. Thank you as well to the production team. for making this happen. Yeah, we know social media can be a very beautiful place, and it's also a place where we can keep having our conversations. Let's not stop talking about this. My name is Joy Ure. Do have yourself a pleasant evening.
WFM 91.7.
Yeah, me holiday. It's easy, baby. Johnny leave me for the street, yeah. And I don't know what to do. And he talk say I know do like the way Cynthia they do. Johnny give Uche belle. He talk say he want marry nene. Walk him candy nene. Johnny Mo, I'm looking for my Johnny. Where is my Johnny? Johnny Mo, do you know Johnny? Question. If I know see my Johnny, looking for my Johnny. I'm looking for my honey. You're telling me this, you're telling me that. I say this is not for me. Johnny do me honey. Johnny do me honey. He's doing me this, he's doing me that. But I know for tell mommy. He go Canada, he go Tokyo. Yesterday he say he dey Morocco. He dance the sicko, he sing a willow. Na lie, na Pinocchio. This one na go be.
WFM 91.
Shoes, little sister, because we're about to blast off.
What is it you're trying to say?
It's time to buckle up, because we're in the driver's seat.
Women Radio 91.7.
Mr. Johnson, I'm here for my money.
Baba landlord, I'm very sorry. My wife is very sick, and I have spent